please welcome to the stage, Buck Doyle.
Good afternoon. How we doing? Hanging in there? Okay. And so why am I here? Well, hopefully I provide you with a different perspective. I come from a military background, and in the military we have a tendency of doing everything like our life depends on it, which makes sense because we're constantly preparing for war. That could be an extreme approach for a lot of people, but let me have you think about a few things. And as you look at this slide and go through those questions in your head, but what I want you to understand that I'm in a habit of doing everything like it mattered. And it has helped me be successful, not only on the battlefield, but off the battlefield. Questions for you: do you go through your daily list with a sense of urgency? Do you start your day, month, year with a plan? Do they have a backup plan? And how would you do things differently if your life or your family's life depended on it? I'm going to go through this presentation with some objectives, 4 of them. The first being your own hero. We all have dreams, we all have visions. And if you don't love these dreams, then who will? If not you, then who? I'm sorry, back up one. Developing resilience. Resilience is going to be something I talk about a lot. To me, being resilient is a key ingredient to being successful in life. Facts versus feelings. This may rub some of y'all raw, but there's a difference. And it's very important when you're going through life, whether it be work or family, to be able to separate the two and understand them. And never confuse effort with results. This is a saying we used to have when I was in the military. We were very candid and blunt about everything we did. And a lot of people get wrapped up in the effort, and how well hard they try and whatnot. And my day, we didn't care. If you didn't produce, then your effort didn't matter. A little backstory on me. I come from, when I was 10 years old, at that time, I had a loving mother and father. I had a dad. He was built like Paul Bunyan. He was a military, he was a soldier, he was an athlete. He was a great athlete. I had a mother, Mary Poppins. She was perfect. Every Christmas, Halloween, she went all out. I had a great childhood up to that point. I had a little brother, partners in crime. One day, my mother came and told my brother and I that her and my father were getting a divorce. I didn't know what divorce meant. I said, what was divorce, Mom? And my mom, being old school from the South, she broke it down. Your dad is leaving us, marrying another woman, and moving to California to start a whole new family. I said, okay. So what's happening with us? And she said, me, you, and your brother are moving to San Antonio, Texas, and start our new life. So, at that moment, I knew that I was not going to have a father figure in my life. So, what was I going to do? Well, when I was 12 years old, I went to the movies. And I watched the movie Rambo, First Blood. Anyone seen it? No? Has anyone seen Rambo, First Blood? Thank you. Lee. All right, so at 12 years old, I went and saw that movie. And I came out fired up. I was like, wow, that was one hell of a movie. And at that moment, I knew that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be Rambo. was strong, he was tough, resilient, he was cool. So I went home and told my Mom, I know what I'm gonna do when I grow up. I'm gonna be Rambo. She looked at me and said, shut up. You're gonna go to college, get a degree, get a good job, be a doctor, be a lawyer. And I was like, okay, sure. Time went on. By the time I got to my senior year, I learned a lot about myself. I learned my strengths and my weaknesses. I was strong. I was fit. I rode BMX bikes. I was good. I competed. I did well. At the same time, I knew my weaknesses. I sucked at school. I hated it with a passion. But I had a vision, and over time, my vision grew. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to become Rambo. And I did my best to research and figure out what I had to do to become Rambo. I also knew that people around me, my loved ones, my mom, uncles, and aunts, they weren't on board with my vision. They wanted to put me in a box. I had to go to school. I had to get a degree. Get some kind of job. And at that moment I knew that I was on my own. That no one was gonna support me like I wanted to pursue my dream. I had to become my own hero. So my senior year in high school, I enlisted in the Marine Corps. And next thing I knew, I was in San Diego, California, standing on the yellow footprints, started my journey to become Rambo in boot camp. Boot camp was 13 weeks. 13 weeks of hell, actually. It sucked. But this is what I wanted to do. During that time in boot camp, there were these guys called drill instructors. They're mean, very mean. But they're there to teach us how to become Marines. And I realized that these guys were mean and yelled at us a lot, but I was learning a lot of different things. And I was also failing as I was going along. But every time I failed something or did something wrong, lo and behold, there was a drill instructor there to fix it. Probably not the way I wanted to, but he was going to fix it. And I realized at that point that there was a difference between a role model, which Rambo was, and a mentor. A role model was something you could see and imitate from a distance. There was no personal investment, and 9 times out of 10 let you down. Or a mentor, well, a mentor's going to be there. He can be there for you. He can educate you. He can help you. But the most important thing I got about mentors is they hold you accountable. They hold you accountable. And to me, going forward in life, that's what I knew I was going to need in my life. I was going to need to find people that can hold me accountable. The gentleman in this picture, both these pictures, James Deaver. In the black and white, I was 23 years old. He was my sergeant major, my boss. He was my first mentor. He was there for me for a lot. This is the beginning of my career, and I had a lot of hard times at first in the Marine Corps, and he was there to help me out with those times. He was even there when my wife and I decided to get married. He brought my wife in his office, sat her down, explained what the Marine Corps was all about, and make sure she understood what she was getting herself involved in, marrying a Marine. And luckily, that conversation went well. We got married after that. And then in the picture below that, 25 years later, after I got out of the Marine Corps, I started doing other work, and I got a job, my first job working in the film industry, being a military consultant. Well, I didn't know that James, when he retired from the Marine Corps, he started working in the film industry. And to this day, he's one of the most sought-out military advisors in the film industry. And by fate, we came together again, and here we have my first mentor, once again mentoring me on my first job on a movie set. In boot camp, I learned quickly that seeking challenges was going to be something I had to get used to doing. After boot camp, I wanted to become Rambo, but I found out quickly in order to do that, I had to become a recon Marine, Special Ops in the Marine Corps. That was the next thing. So I went, I took the test for becoming a recon Marine and passed it. Did very well. Then I went to the unit, I checked in. I'm here to become a recon Marine. And when you check in, you get paperwork and you go through a list. Within that paperwork, it tells you, hey, this is what you got to do to remain a recon Marine. And there's a list, 2 pages long, of schools that I have to go to. These schools weren't, it was jump school, dive school, survival school, sniper school, okay? All these schools were hard, were tough, real tough. For the most part, I passed them all. Some I did not. And then I started to understand that I was going to fail at some things. And what was I going to do about it? Was I going to avoid these challenges because failure was going to come? Or was I just going to go, you know what? Failure's going to come, I'm going to embrace it. But I'm not going to have it define me, but rather refine me. Then there comes resilience. Resilience, like I said at the beginning, to me is that ingredient you have to have to succeed in life, whether it be work or with a family. The ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. That's life. That's life. We all screw up. No matter what, it's going to happen. You're going to screw up. When we screw up, though, we don't have to give up. And that's the thing. With resilience and becoming resilient, another thing, what helps me the most is, I learned a long time ago, is to separate facts from the feelings. Okay? What happens when we fail something? What immediately happens? What happens? We fail something and what? We feel bad, right? Feelings pop up. Yes? No? And how do we feel about that? Bad, angry, we feel insecure about it. Do we feel like readdressing that task again immediately? Or do we like, I don't want to deal with that? Okay? A lot of times our feelings will impede or make us want to avoid readdressing that task. Okay? What I found early on is that I had to understand when I failed something, there was a reason for it. And my feelings aren't going to help me be successful. Feelings don't do anything. Does that make sense? Can you win a fight in a boxer ring with feelings? No. You have to have skills. Can you be mad and upset when you're in a ring? Sure. Can you be happy? Sure. But neither one of those feelings are going to allow you to win that fight. It's your skill sets. Okay? Sometimes, when we do a lot of things in life, especially with tasks, I can tell you right now, most of the bosses I had, my employers, I didn't like them. Didn't like them. But it didn't matter. I don't think my bosses cared. But I still had to do a task. I had to do it well. A lot of times I had to do it with enthusiasm. But if I let my feelings influence the way I perform, then I'm the one who's going to lose. Does that make sense? Yes, no? Make sense? Okay? So feelings, again, we have to be aware of them. We all have them. I'm a very emotional person. If If I acted on my feelings every day, I would probably be in jail beating people up. It's just the way it is. But I can't do that. I can't afford to do that. I got mouths to feed. So when feelings come up, we got to put them in check. We got to separate them. When I was a recon Marine, I was very fortunate. I was very successful. And during combat operations, one of the ways we were able to separate facts and feelings was something we did called mission planning. We always had to understand, we had to have a clear objective. Everyone had to know what that objective was. What were we doing? What was our task? Knowns and unknowns. What do we know about our mission at hand? And what don't we know? Teams, roles, task organized. Always putting our best person forward. I'm not going to have someone going to be in a position because I like him. Or not put him there because I don't like him. He's going to be in that role because he's the best person for the job. And if someone on our team that's not going to produce, then bench him. Now, once I said bench him, a lot said, yeah, that's mean, that's harsh. Yeah, it can be, but I'm not worried about your feelings. I'm worried about being successful with the mission. Again, it could be a harsh way of looking at things, but if you peel back the onion, it is what it is. Contingency plans, gotta have them. You can have the best plan in the world, but every plan that you lay out, the minute you execute, goes in the trash can. And I say that because things are going to change in your plan. And if you fall in love with it from A to Z, one of those letters is going to fall out. And you better have an answer to keep it on track. Okay, so what happens when you have a well thought out plan, and you prepare for it, but you still get mission failure? It still goes wrong. All right, I'm going to show you a video, and in the video, this video depicts my biggest failure in my life. All right, it takes place May 26, 2007 in Iraq. At this point, I got 17 years in the Marine Corps as a reconnaissance Marine, and I'm good. I've achieved a lot of things. I've been on a lot of missions. I knocked the ball out of the park multiple times. There's nothing I can't do. I'm really good. The video will pick up as we're heading out on a mission. And one of my teammates had just gotten shot, and I'm going down to grab him, to pull him out of line of fire, and I'm going to get shot. And then one of my buddies is going to come out and grab me and pull me aside. Now, this video was taken by an enemy sniper for propaganda. Probably like I said, worst day of my life. Worst day of my life. Again, up to that day, I want you to understand that I was Superman. I had obtained everything I wanted to do in my career. I had become Rambo. There was nothing I couldn't do. And that day, that short period of time, that was my kryptonite. We know what kryptonite does to Superman. And kryptonite had destroyed me. Everything I knew in life, everything I trusted in life was gone in 20 seconds. Physically, I was broken. Shot twice. One bullet destroyed my left humerus, shattered it. Other bullet went in my left leg, lodged into my femur. Emotionally, I was a wreck. People talk about broken hearts and whatnot. That day I understood what a broken heart was. I watched one of my best friends bleed out and take his last breath right in front of me. But those feelings aside, at that moment I knew I failed my mission. No matter how sad it was, it didn't matter. I failed. And I owned it. The worst thing about all of this is that no longer, at that moment, bleeding on the side of the road, I believed in myself. I didn't like myself. And the worst of it all, I didn't know what was next. I was scared to death for the first time in my life. I didn't know what was going to happen next. Long story short, 18 months later, I went through intensive rehab. It was rough. Mentally, I still had doubt that I would ever be that guy again. Fortunately, life can be self-correcting. I would redeploy to Afghanistan for another deployment. I was scared the whole time. Started going on missions, and things started happening again. In the back of my head the whole time, I knew I had to face my fears and go out there and just do it. My second mission on that deployment, we're driving a mission to go, we're hunting a guy down and get to our objective. And on the way there, my truck hit a 40-pound IED, improvised explosive device. It blew the whole front side of the truck up. It rocked my world. Once that explosion hit, I wiggled my fingers, toes, reached for the guys in the truck, everyone's okay. And all of a sudden, this big, heavy lifted weight came off my body. And I felt that adrenaline pumping again. And I started to feel like I did before I got shot. And I was back in the fight. I was feeling pretty cocky. I would continue to deploy our combat operations for another 5 years in Afghanistan. It wouldn't be the last time I got blown up. It wouldn't be the last time I got in gunfights. The point to this whole thing is no matter how hard you fall, you fail, there is a way back. It's going to suck though. It's going to suck. But if you stick to being resilient and look to your mentors and always knowing that, hey, I have to be my own hero, things will work out. This is so horrible. 26 years of being Rambo. Had a great time, did a lot. When I look at this slide, a little bit of guilt comes in. I had a great family, I still have a great family. I had a beautiful wife. And I want to say that I was able to go to overseas. I think I just punched it up just now. My wife and I have been, 28, 29 years married? Let's just say around 29. Out of those 29 years of marriage, we've been separated 5.5 years. Now, during that time, I was gone for 5.5 years. My wife knew that I may not come back any given time. She was good with that. And I was able to go overseas and do all these great things, be Rambo. Had to be selfish. Had to be selfish when I did that. Didn't think a lot about back home. I didn't have to. Because she was able to keep that home front stable. And the way we did that is we put as much effort in the home front as we did with work. I did mission planning at work, we did mission planning at home. I always knew what the schedule was going to be for the kids. I always knew what was happening with the sports. We communicated nonstop. I couldn't tell her everything I was doing overseas, but she knew enough where she'd feel comfortable me being overseas. We had roles, we had roles, we had different roles, and I had my role, she had her role. But the thing is, when I came home from my deployment, I fell into place. I was the lowest person on the totem pole. I made sure I supported her when I was at home. We had each other's six. Our kids always knew that we were a cohesive unit, supported each other. Acknowledging feelings and addressing facts at home, yeah, that sucked. Because I had my wife and two little girls. A lot of feelings in the house. So I had to play the game there. Like at work, I didn't have to. But I had to adjust, I had to address the feelings. Okay? But being the home front is very important. You gotta make sure you spend just as much time in your career at home. Wealth and living with a purpose. When I retired from the Marine Corps, my first job, I made a lot of money. A lot of money. But a couple of years into my first job, I realized I wasn't happy. I didn't have the freedoms I thought I was going to have making all that money. So I had to adjust. You have to make sure, as you're going through your career, that you are the one who defines what that personal and freedom, financial freedom looks like. Everyone's different. Everyone's different, and you have to figure it out. What makes you comfortable? What makes you happy? We had a few speakers talk about happiness. They're 100% correct. You have to be happy at what you're doing. Money's great, but happiness is key. Know your value. It's very, very, very important. I went 20 years in the Marine Corps, and no one sat me down and told me what I was worth. They used me, but they never sat down and told me, hey, this is your value. It wasn't until I got my first job that a guy sat down and said, hey, I see you have this skill set, this skill set, this skill set, this skill set. Here's the money value on there. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. But he said, you're very valuable to us. What can I do? What can we do to make sure that you stick around? So know your value. And make sure your boss knows your value. Your peers know your value. Never stop learning. Expand your skill sets. If you would have came to me and said, hey, Buck, came to me 7 years ago and said, Buck, you're going to be working in Hollywood with A-list actors, and you're going to be in there and having a good time, I would have said you're full of it. Ain't no way I'm going to Hollywood and deal with these silly-ass actors. That wasn't my thing. Well, one day I got a call. I went, I said, what the heck with it, and enjoyed it. Fell in love with it. And ever since then, that's been one of my businesses, consulting with film industry. I try to keep a student mindset at all times. Even if I'm in a room and I'm the subject matter expert, I try to keep that student mindset of being able to take in information from other people, look at other perspectives, remaining objective. I never used to be that way. I was very subjective, and say my way or highway. But it took a skill, it took training for me to be objective and look at other people's points of view. Live with a purpose and integrity. The integrity piece is very important. A couple of speakers already talked about it. If you're honest with yourself and the people you work with, things will happen, positive things. Don't ever compromise that integrity, being honest with other people. Never confuse effort with results. Life is a culmination of actions and decisions we make every day. Every day. Make the best of it. Make the best of it. And I challenge you to live your life to its fullest. Thank you very much.